everyone, and welcome to another episode of Connections. Connections is our videocast series with Classical Crossover Magazine, where we get to learn more about the performers in the crossover, classical, Broadway, and neighboring genres. Today we'll be speaking to the wonderful tenor, John Riesen.
So nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
And I think I practiced your name, but I think I just butchered it. It's Riesen, right? Not Risen.
It is.
Yeah.
It's it's an Americanization of the name. I mean, you said it perfectly correct.
Okay.
The part of my family that's from Switzerland would say Riesen, but somehow it got changed over here, like things do. So
Okay. That works. So tell us how the last few days been going for you. I know you had a lot going on over Christmas with your album, but since then, have you kind of been able to relax in January or?
Yeah, my wife and I have a newborn baby, and so relaxing is an interesting word.
Relative.
But he's wonderful and he's pretty easygoing. Like right now, he's napping, and so the house is quiet, and we've taken a lot of time to just kind of rest and heal up. I guess I should say my life used to be so much more fast paced, going to the stages, going around the country and around the world singing. And so even with the holidays and putting out the Christmas album and all the other stuff involved with the family travel, it was pretty low key for us.
So is this your first little one you have or your second?
It is. It's our first.
Oh, that's so exciting.
He's wonderful. I didn't know what to expect, like anyone who's a first-time parent.
Yeah.
But he's been truly the silver lining of COVID. I got sent home right. I think Jillian was 7 months pregnant when I got sent home from Opera Birmingham, where I was performing in Cendrillon as Prince Charming. And I came home and I got to experience everything nonstop till now. And, looking back, yes, I wish the world hadn't, crashed and, and burned and everything. And I wish stages were open. I very much do wish that. But on a personal level, it's been so special to have this time with my family and to not miss a single moment has been a very beautiful thing. And so that's the optimistic way of looking at what happened in my life.
Absolutely. We'll discuss that a little bit more too. But tell me, so are you from Michigan? Because I know a lot of your performances are there.
Yes. So I technically was born in New York, but I grew up right outside of Detroit.
Okay.
And for the majority of my life. And then I went to Michigan State University for both my bachelor's and my master's degrees. And so my origin story, I guess, is in Michigan. And then I branched out into the world.
Yeah.
And my wife recently just got a doctorate at Michigan State University, which brought us back. So after years of being away, we went back, and now we're in New York again.
Gotcha. So as far as your singing, was that something that your family really did, or like when you grew up? Because I know you started as a baseball player, but was it something you grew up listening to?
So yes, not classical music, I will say. Okay. My family's very musical. My dad plays piano wonderfully, but I think he grew up playing piano in church and things like that, and then he played for himself at home and wrote songs and it was beautiful. And then he met my mom, who did musicals in college and played the cello throughout high school and college, and they were a nice match, and they loved singing around the house. And I grew up with my parents singing in harmony around the house for fun.
Aww.
And then my siblings have perfect pitch, so they're those special people who hear notes and know what they are. And then there was me, the baseball player. And so I loved music. I loved listening to it. I loved listening to them. But when I would try to join in, I would quickly get told to stop because I couldn't match pitch.
Yep.
And they annoyed them that I was like, like, no, stop. And when the time came, my grandmother, when I was in high school, sent money for all of her grandchildren to get some kind of arts lesson, like $25 or something like that.
Yeah.
And my parents just thought, you should take voice lessons. If you want to sing in tune, then maybe someone can teach you how to sing in tune. So,
oh my goodness.
I took voice lessons, and very quickly, it turns out I could sing in tune. I just, like many athletic guys, I was soft-spoken and I didn't want to try. and I was nervous of what would happen if I was singing loud. And of course, then suddenly it turns out I have a really loud voice, and I'm, operatic stage kind of loud
Yep.
voice. And things changed very quickly once I got comfortable with that idea, and I used, my stamina and my strength from my athletic career to inform how I learned to breathe and everything, because it's all very similar between playing a sport and singing. To me, it's deep breaths and concentration and relaxing certain muscles and not having tension when you're doing something challenging. There's huge correlations between sports and singing in that way. And so very quickly I got good at it, and I just started running down that path and didn't stop till now.
So when you went to college, were you actually thinking I'm going to be a ball player, or do you think I'm going to study opera?
I wanted to do both, is the truth. That was right at the turning point. So when I was 18, I had scholarships to many universities for baseball, but I also was getting scholarships for singing. And I had to kind of decide between the two. And I chose Michigan State because I thought I could do both. I thought I could play on the team and study with a Metropolitan Opera singer, Richard Fracker, who was there as the head of voice. And turns out you can't do that because both of them require all of your time.
Yes.
And so that was a rude awakening in the fall. I missed a practice because of a mandatory music class, because music classes, as you know, are not like an engineering class where it says it's 3 credits. And so it will never take you more than 3 hours of your week. A music class, of course, is 1 credit for like 10 hours a week. And you have as many credits as anyone else. So if you have 15 credits, you're giving up 60 hours of your week to it. And I eventually came to that point where I couldn't do both. And I went to the coach and I went to my voice teacher and I said, well, what can I do? And they both said the same thing. Essentially, you can't serve 2 masters, pick one and choose. And the voice area was giving me essentially a full ride to do this. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to commit to that and see what happens.
Yeah.
And my family was very much supportive of that, because they thought, well, if you don't like it after 4 years of getting a free degree, you could still try and play baseball. I mean, it's not like you'll be old, you'll be 22. Yeah. And that just didn't happen, because as I continued to train and excuse me, I started off as a baritone, because most guys are baritones and my voice is full for a tenor. And as my career went, I switched to tenor, which then opened a lot more doors, because having a 6 foot tall, athletic, high stamina tenor is already a whole bunch of rare things.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I was the leads in all the shows, and I got to do Romeo and Juliet and The Tales of Hoffmann and La Boheme and Pirates of Penzance. And I mean, these are all just staple tenor lead amazing things. Yeah. And it's been funny looking back, because I know now as a 30-year-old how challenging those roles are. I know that they're, Tales of Hoffmann is a 3-hour French grand opera sing that's notoriously hard for the tenor, and I did it at the age of 20. Like, it was, it was just fun. It didn't scare me. It didn't make me worry stamina wise, because that's one of my gifts. And I look back and go, oh my gosh, I would never assign a 20-year-old to sing Hoffmann.
This role, yeah.
In the Tales of Hoffmann, like, that's a why. But my teachers all saw that in me, and so doors just kept opening. And I do miss baseball a lot. I tried to play on a team, but then COVID happened. I know. I found a team, like a post-collegiate team of all guys who were like high-level players, and now it's like, I'm kind of nervous to go indoors with a whole bunch of guys.
Of course, yeah. But sorry, I did hear there was a song that came out of this baseball thing. So you'll.
There is, yes. Oh, so there's a song that was written by Craig Carnelia, who's a Broadway composer, called "What You'd Call a Dream," and it's from a review called Diamonds. I believe it was on Broadway for a few days in the 80s, and the show itself did not do well. I think the idea of the show was that they were little vignettes about diamonds.
Okay.
And they were all like not connected. And I mean, diamonds like diamond rings and diamonds like baseball diamonds. And I'm not sure how they thought this would tie together well. I haven't seen the show, but it did poorly and has not been done since. But this song has been put into several anthologies and stuff. And most people don't know it because if we're honest, a lot of people would look at the song, think, oh, that's really cheesy, and I have no personal connection to it. I'm not going to waste my time. I heard it when my teacher sang it at a concert when I was 19. I just had committed to no more baseball, just singing. And he was doing a concert, and he walks out with a baseball bat and a Michigan State cap, and he starts singing this song. This really, I mean, it's a very sentimental song. It's not, you know, upbeat or anything. It's very slow and reliving a memory of playing baseball as the future you, reliving something beautiful, and you know, it talks about how your dad's there watching you and all this stuff. It's very heartfelt, and I start crying and crying and crying in this concert, and I'm going, what's wrong with me? I've never cried like this in a public place. What's going on? And I was just so touched. I was changed by this performance, and I begged and begged and begged to sing this song. And my teacher at first said, well, let's wait till for a better moment. And finally, for my graduate recital, he was like, okay, I think it's time for me to give this song to you. It's yours. Take it out into the world. And we actually performed it together in my graduate recital, which was such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I have a video of it that I will not share because he asked me not to. But you can audibly hear people like sobbing. It was awesome because, you know, there are many dynamics to that. There's the two of us, and then the song itself, and the fact that we were both baseball players, and it was chill. It was, you know, breathtaking experience for me. And then I took it out into the professional operatic world, where, you know, I did residencies and young artist programs, and then eventually got my management and started performing main stage around the country and a bit in Europe, and once in China. And I took this song wherever I went. It was my like go-to, like, here's me. You know, it may not be an aria, an opera aria, but it's who I am. And I sing it operatically anyway. So what's the difference? And
Yeah.
the response I always get is either, I've never heard of that song, I couldn't stop crying, wow, you know, that story is amazing. Or I've heard that song and I've always hated it because it was so cheesy. And then I heard you sing it and I lost it because now I understand what the song means. And I've always thought that to be really special, that I have a very unique story, and someone wrote a song that I just feel is, you know, it's just so me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's so cool too that your mentor kind of passed that on to you, because I do think once we get really connected to a song, it's almost like we're kind of protected, right? Like kind of protected with that piece.
Very. Yeah. And he said that at first. He's like, oh, but this is like my song.
Yeah.
But then he gave it to me, and I'm very glad he did, because it's been a special thing to take with me. And I just released an official music video of it onto YouTube that's been, people are loving. And the reason it's special now is because it used to be about me. John was reliving a memory of playing baseball as a singer, and by singing, it's very beautiful. But now it has an extra layer because I'm a father now. And so I am part of the story. But then if you, in the music video, you get to the end and you realize the whole time I'm talking about his future and him getting to live something that he loves and have this future. And when I saw the first cut of this music video, because, you know, my friend, the director, Neil Campbell, he's the one who edited it, and he took all the videography and everything, and I just did my part. When I saw it, I started crying so hard because realizing how my life's changed, even from last year, COVID aside.
Yeah.
Having a son is such a huge difference to my life as a performer, and it's opened up a whole different part of my emotional range and who I am. And even the song that's been mine, it's been mine for 10 years. It's suddenly not about me anymore, which then makes it even better.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So everyone, if you haven't seen the music video, I know I've seen stills from it, but I haven't seen the full thing yet. So I'm going to definitely go watch that afterwards, and everyone check that out also. So I know a few people have mentioned, I think it was maybe Pavarotti, having like 5 songs. So that's obviously one of yours. What are kind of your other go-to party pieces when you're auditioning or?
Oh, that's a good question. It depends on the requirements, I suppose.
Okay.
That is definitely the top of my list.
Okay.
For that kind of thing. If it's a more opera oriented gala, because I do both opera and musical theater. And so depending on the type of gig, like if I was doing Beauty and the Beast, let's say, I would probably lean more into my musical theater side, and I would probably do things like Maria from West Side Story,
Yes.
and Out There from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and This Is the Moment from Jekyll and Hyde.
I
And
love Jekyll and Hyde.
I know, if I could do that, I would be so happy. I have a friend who's done all of my dream roles. He's, like 7 or 8 years older than me. He did them like all on Broadway. His name's Nate
Amazing.
Hackman, and I was like, I met him and I said, I'm just so jealous of you because you've done everything that I'm like, oh, I'd love to do that. Anyway,
give you 7 years, right? And you'll do the same thing. So.
Yeah, give me 7 years. Give me 7 years. Oh, what's another one? Oh, and Bring Him Home from Les Mis would be like my musical theater. Those are my like go-to dream songs. And then on the opera side, I mean, I'm a tenor. I can't help but say Nessun Dorma. I mean,
of course, yes.
What else is there? I love À la Victoire from Romeo and Juliet. I know it's the classic aria that every young tenor learns if they're a lyric or heavier, but I just love it. I've always loved, it's a little more niche, but because I did the Tales of Hoffmann when I was young, I've always loved the Ballad of Kleinzach, which is like his opening aria where he tells the tale of the little dwarf Kleinzach and gets lost in himself. The E.T.A. Hoffmann gets lost in himself and starts like ranting about his old lover, and the music becomes like full French grand opera at its best. And he goes on for like 3 minutes in the most impassioned music you've ever heard in your life, which, the piano does it wonderfully, but when it's with orchestra, it's just like breathtaking to even be on stage with it, let alone in the audience. And then he goes back to, he realizes what he's done, and everyone's like, wait, what did you just say? And he goes back to telling his dumb tale about Kleinzach. And I've always found it extremely fun. Let's see, I need 2 more. I mean, I feel like all my choices are so standard and cheesy, but I am a tenor. I mean,
there's a reason they're standard, right? It's because we all love them, though.
Yeah, that's true. We do all love them. One aria I love, and I do offer to sing it often, but it's more pain than it's worth, is Che gelida manina from La Boheme. I love listening to it. I do. And so that's why I like performing it, because I know the audience also loves listening to it. I don't think any of us like singing it. It's really not fun to sing. It's weirdly paced, and it's just odd. I mean, it doesn't sit in any weird cracks. It just hammers the same spot over and over and then says, hey, give me a high C right here. But it's so fun to listen to, and it's so fun to act, that I love offering it. And then, of course, to be as lame as possible, I do, like every other tenor, love O Sole Mio. It's just, I don't know if it's because Pavarotti did it so well and we all went, oh, I want to sing like that. or if it's just such a fun song. But I tend to offer O Sole Mio wherever I can, because it's one of those songs that it's always impressive. It's never hard. You can add in optional, high C's or high A's, depending on which part of the song you want to add it into. And people are always smiling and always recognize it. So those are probably my 5 on that end.
Very good. I like it. Another song that just came into my mind, since you like baseball, have you ever seen Smash?
No.
Okay. So it's like this TV show about them making a musical on Marilyn Monroe. It's a really fun show.
Okay.
But they have the character of Joe DiMaggio, and he sings Lexington and 42nd Street. So you should definitely check that out.
Which platform is this on?
I'm not sure where it is now. I think it was originally maybe NBC, but it had like Megan Hilty she was like the Broadway, and then they had Catherine McPhee as being like the newcomer coming in. They're both trying to get the role. It was an awesome show, so check it out.
Smash. I will be checking it out. Joe DiMaggio is one of the main characters. Are you kidding me?
So
very cool.
Yeah. I think you'd love it, and you do really well at it too. So
I'll definitely check it out.
What kind of what is your FOC? Because I know we all kind of come into it, we're just kind of learning, so that until we know what or how to do good technique, we can't really do that. But once you know,
Fair.
Yeah.
I have a complicated FOC, I'll say.
Okay.
If I were to go by the standard rulings, I would say that I'm a full lyric tenor.
Okay.
I'm definitely not a light lyric tenor, and my voice sits oddly low. Now, I mean, my range is the same as any tenor. I hit C's just fine. But I can go well below the average tenor, well below the average lyric baritone. Sometimes I have some baritone friends that I go way lower than. That's just a natural thing. I wonder if that's part of my athleticism, or because I'm really good at breathing as a a former athlete. I'm not sure what that is, but that I've often had fun in the musical theater world because I can be a full baritone, because
Yeah.
there are roles that are baritone roles, that like Gaston in Beauty and the Beast, that's like the classic baritone villain. Well, that's a piece of cake because it's not too low for me, and you have a microphone, so it's like it doesn't matter that it's not as loud as my high notes, because I can just talk like this instead of talking in my normal voice. It's true, LeFou, and my whatever. It sounds baritonal enough in a mic. I've been told, because I have what's called like a very American sound. So I'm not very Italian, French, maybe a little Germanic, but my voice sounds the best in English, Russian, and more German, and more like heavy French. So I've sung a lot of Russian and English and heavy French. Like I said, I've done Hoffman and Romeo, and more recently I've been doing a lot of Cendrillons as Prince Charming, which I know is often a mezzo, but originally, being a mezzo, it switched to tenor pretty quickly, and it was usually done by those, guys who did heavier French stuff, because the high note of the show is a B flat, I think, which is not particularly high for a tenor.
Yeah.
And so it sits very much in like this heavier tenor spot. But of course, he's Prince Charming. He's a young man, which is why I think they chose. I mean, originally it was for a mezzo, soprano instead of a tenor, and so I tend to do a lot of operetta right now because, there's the European Opera Network and the American Opera Network. And one of the things about the American Opera Network is just the sheer size of the opera houses is too big. And so the Fox all have to be bumped down to accommodate for the fact that these houses are not made for acoustic vocal singing. Sorry, America. And so if I were to sing at a 1,000 seat theater in Italy, I could easily do, Pinkerton in Butterfly, or I could easily do Hoffman, or things like that, or Radames and Aida. However, if I was at a 3,000 seat with carpeting in America, there's no way they would want me at my current age to do that, because they have expectations of what would be considered, I mean, truly Wagnerian in Europe would be considered that kind of tenor there. And so I do a lot right now in my young age of the lyric stuff, that the romantic guy, the Romeo, Rodolfo, Alfredo, Frederick in Pirates of Penzance, Ray Fraxtraw in HMS Pinafore, and just kind of all that middle stuff, the stuff that requires some meat in the voice, but it's really about the beauty and the youth of the look and sound, which I'm fine with, because as we all know, it's a long game, and those shows are done like every 2 minutes at every company. So that's been one of my blessings, is because of my youthful look and my athleticism and the fact that my stamina is high. I get to do, well, pre-COVID, I got to do as much work as I wanted to do, and got to a point where I was saying, no, I can't do that because of scheduling. I can't do that because I want to see my family. And that, I know, is a very rare place for a young opera singer. And so my Fach, let's just say I'm a full lyric tenor, and in time we'll see what that means when I'm a little older, and if I do more work across the pond in Europe, because that would change things a little bit too. Because I could definitely do heavier stuff there than I could here.
Sorry, I have my little dog. She's about to fall right here.
No problem.
So you had kind of a unique debut at Lincoln Center. So tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, that was so cool. It was the West Side Story suite done with the New York City Ballet. And the New York City Ballet, of course, is one of the premier ballet companies in the world, and they travel internationally, and they, of course, house international performers and have partners with other major companies worldwide. And they do this amazing Jerome Robbins, who is the original choreographer of West Side Story and many other ballets, Jerome Robbins' rendition of Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story, where they cut down the story to 45 minutes and they get rid of the dialogue portion essentially, and just have it be the music and the dancing to make it a short, snazzy rendition of West Side Story that then they can pair with another Jerome Robbins famous ballet choreography. And so I think they paired it with, Sailors Come to Town. And shoot.
Oh, what is that? Is that the one that like with Gene Kelly and?
Yes.
What is the name
Thank
of
you
that
for.
though?
I'm getting all the wrong names in my head. Anyway, you're. They paired it with that the one time I did it, and I've actually done this performance several times with the New York City Ballet because they kept bringing us back. And I was told we were supposed to do it this spring, but obviously everything's messed up, and I think they're going to push last season to next season, and then maybe in 2 years I'll get to do it again. But so I was the voice of Tony. So of course, Tony and Maria, Romeo and Juliet, Tony and Maria. And so I went out there, and I'm wearing all black, and I would walk out and walk over to the proscenium and stand there alone with my own little light, my little limelight beam, and I would sing all of Tony's stuff while this ballet dancer is dancing Tony. And it was so cool because it's separate. I've done West Side Story as Tony. Like I've done the whole show, the whole musical. And so it was very different to not have to move or act like him. I just focused on being his voice, and it was such a cool experience. And of course, it's the Lincoln Center, so everything's very high.
Yes.
High quality, high pressure. And it was the first time I did it, my heart was like beating out of my chest, because you walk out there and you're like, oh, there are almost 4,000 people here. And they basically just like the stage managers, my direction was, hey, so we just want you to walk out there, turn right, go up against the proscenium into the light, and we want you to sing all the stuff. And then when the show's over, we want you to walk back down and off stage. And then you'll walk into the pit, and then you'll sing, there's a place for us, from the pit, because they're not really dancing. They're just holding hands and stuff at the end. And I'm like, okay. And I get out there and I'm like, wait, when am I supposed to leave? Am I supposed to leave like I finish singing and leave, or do I wait for applause and leave? And so I made my own choice, and I waited for the applause, and then I slowly walked out, and they're like, great job, you did it perfect. I was like, okay.
You're like, I accidentally had the right instincts for that.
They gave me such little direction. It was crazy because, when you do a musical or an opera, you're given so much direction. Everyone has a very strong opinion on everything. And they were just like, John, you'll do great. Go out there in front of 4,000 people, sing your heart out. Okay. And so that, I think there were seven or 8 performances that time. Then we got brought back a few months later, did 7 or 8 performances, and then we got brought back to do the same thing. And we were supposed to do that again. And apparently they've been doing this for 20 or 30 years, where they just mount the same show over and over and over. And I've been told that they always offer the same people the same stuff until they say no, and then they replace them. And so I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because that's not normal in my opinion. Companies don't often have loyalty to singers, but I think they're like, well, they've already proven they can do it, so it's easy for us.
Yeah. That's
and
awesome,
so some of the ladies in the show, the singers, had told me that they had gone to, Paris and Tokyo and all these other places to do it. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. That sounds fun. Great. So yeah, that was an amazing Lincoln Center debut, and I really enjoyed it. And now I'm moving down the street to do my Carnegie Hall debut as the tenor soloist in The Messiah. It was supposed to be last month, but that didn't work. So they just wrote me this week, actually, with good news for once, and said, we've rescheduled it. It's going to be in December 2021, and we'd still love to have you do it. And I was like, yes, of course I'll do it.
So what's it like? I mean, obviously it's disappointing to miss that, but have you sung Messiah before? Yes. Okay.
Yes, definitely. I've sung it, I don't know, 7 or 8 times. Once again, being a tenor, it really makes things easy for any young singers listening. There is a truth when they say like, oh, but they're a tenor. Like, yeah, I know, but you're born that way. So
yeah, but you're always needed. That's for sure. I still think like good tenors. I mean, there's obviously a lot of tenors and there's a lot of talent, but if you're very good, there's always still, like so much work, I would imagine.
Yes, especially if you sit in the slightly heavier side. I mean, the heavier you go, the more rare things are, right? They typically, and especially with tenors, if you can fill in those romantic leading roles well, and you look the part on top of acting the part and sounding the part, and you're easy to work with and stuff like that, it's a recipe for success, I've been told, because there are a lot of guys who don't fit many of those qualities. They get hired anyway because tenors are rare.
Yeah.
And so if you fit all the qualities and you make an effort to fit all the qualities, it really works in your favor.
Yeah, absolutely. So your wife is another talented singer. So I know we've interviewed a little bit about that on the website, but tell us a little bit about how you guys met, some of the roles you were doing together.
So Jillian, originally Jillian Lynn Cotter, is a mezzo-soprano, and she grew up in Buffalo, New York, where we live now, and went to SUNY Fredonia, which is State University of New York in Fredonia, and then she went to the New England Conservatory in Boston. And she studied there, got her master's degree, and then went to New York like we all do and auditioned for a million programs and residencies and stuff. And she and I both got the same first residency, which was at Shreveport Opera in Louisiana. And day one of working, we met, and I remember it vividly because it's one of our like fun stories we tell people when they ask us how we met. We pulled up so Shreveport Opera is a wonderful company. I love them. But back in the day, before modern times, they had this house donated to them by one of the patrons that was a lovely house, but it was oddly located. It was across, as they would say, across the bridge in Bossier City, in a very, very bad part of town. So bad that they surrounded it with 10-foot high barbed wire fences.
Oh.
And it had a gate that had a code, and the gate that had barbed wire fences would open and close for you to like protect the house and the artists of the opera. Wow. And so, I was a young guy, and so I showed up and was like, wow, this is kind of cool. But Jillian and her family showed up and they were like, what is this? What is our daughter getting into? Because her parents both drove her down.
Yeah.
So they're a little uncomfortable and they're unpacking their stuff, and I show up and I help, I go up and I introduce myself and I start helping unpack things. And Jillian's mom apparently goes up to her and says, go outside and help that young man carry his stuff in. And she goes, Mom, look at him. He doesn't need my help. And she's like, honey, go help him. And so Jillian came outside and we got to know each other and stuff like that. And I admit at the time I was dating someone else. And so we didn't pursue anything at first, but as the months passed by and the other relationship went away, Jillian told me she was trying so very hard to get my attention, which she had, but I didn't want to ruin our work situation.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where you're working together every day and you're living in the same community. It's like, this could go very poorly. And there are some people who love showmances, and there are some people who love that kind of risk and like, oh, but that won't happen to us. And I was trying to be smart. And over time, the opera company and all the donors in the community, they just loved us as a pair because we were like best buds. We were going on long runs together because she was a marathon runner, and I wanted to work out and impress her. And so I would try and run with her, which we learned in Louisiana is a lot harder than it is up north. And we were doing everything together, and we had our buddy Ryan and our who's the baritone, and our friend Sarah, who's the soprano, and we were all just thick as thieves. And then I remember the opera company director, Steve Aiken, brought me into his office. He said, look, I've never said this before to an artist because I think it's ridiculous, but I truly mean this. You need to date Jillian. Like, you two need to be a couple. I've never felt so strongly about two artists dating before, because I usually think it's a terrible idea, but you need to do this. And the rest of the community was saying this kind of stuff too. And so I had a lot of pressure on me. And there was one particular event where we were singing Stranger in Paradise from Kismet. Mm-hmm. And it was at a private dinner party of someone who's now one of my great mentors and friends still to this day. And we sang it. Apparently it was very believable. And I got taken aside by this man, and he says, young man, I do not know you from Adam, but you would be a fool not to pursue what's in your heart for that young woman. And I was like, what? How did you know? And it was just, one of those amazing things that life brings you. And so I finally I finally asked her out, and she looked at me and said, "Oh my God, finally, I've been waiting." And so things started with a bang, and they really just kept, I mean, even till today, which is 6 years later, it's just been heaven. I mean, it's been perfect. That, which is a nice segue into my song that is coming out, "You Came Into My
Yes.
Life," because it's about Jillian and my experience meeting her and who I was. Um, because it's such a sappy love story and so wonderful. And you know, to those of you who, you know, don't believe in romance, you can find it. Believe me, it's just, it, when it comes, it knocks you off your feet. And I uh, recently had a son, and I was in the room when it happened, and I watched everything. I watched what Jillian went through. It was a 39-hour labor.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, not easy. And we get to the end. We get to the pushing, which is obviously the hardest part of the labor outside of the contractions and everything. And I had this moment where I heard these words in my head that said, "When you came into my life, everything changed." And it was like, it like chilled me. And then of course I was sucked very much back into the moment because of what's happening. And you know, she only had to push for less than 15 minutes because she's a champion. And I will say, opera singers, in theory, if you're good at breath support, those are the muscles you're using, I'm told. And so it's like holding a really big high note, except for 10 times harder. That down and out kind of pushing and stuff like that. That's what they're trying to get you to do. And so Jillian apparently did it really. I mean, the nurse was like, "This is your first baby? How did you do that? Like, even your first push?" And so, just saying, opera singing ladies.
Yeah, right. It works.
Apparently, you're really good at that. And so she I mean, she pushed him right out, and our life completely changed from there. And I went home and I called one of my best friends, Evan L. Snyder, who's an operatic composer. And I said, "Hey man, I got to tell you, I had the coolest moment of inspiration, and I wanted to tell someone who could do something with it." And so I told him about the words, "When you came into my life, everything changed." And he went, "Oh my gosh, yes. Let me run to that." And then we went on a few socially distanced walks around, you know, the neighborhood and stuff like that, because he lived right near us, which was a blessing.
Yeah.
And he just asked me to tell him about everything I just told you with Jillian, except for in a little bit more detail, and asked me some things about, like, well, what were certain sensations and emotions you felt when you were on these kind of dates and stuff. And he just jotted things down. And then he came back to me and was like, "I've got it. Check this out. These are almost all your words." And he had the text. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." And he then wrote a tune, and it's not it so it's a true like pop opera, adult contemporary pop kind of song. It's meant to, as I'm trying to do with all my stuff right now, it's meant to take normal people who are not necessarily into opera and classical and work them slowly into a full-blown classical sound. And so the beginning starts very low and very hushed and very much like a pop song, a love song. And then it grows into a beautiful, sweet melody. It never gets very high because that's where people start getting scared of our voices, I know. But then as it grows and it gets to the bridge of the song, it gets to the final chorus, we just literally jump up a sixth, and suddenly it's just full blown like string orchestration and horns and cymbal crashes and timpani, and just letting it out operatically with, you know, high B flats and what have you. And then it comes back down, back to the beginning. And I really hope people love it as much as I do, and Jillian does, thankfully.
Yeah, that was the important one too.
It's very important. I was like, "You have to tell me if you don't like it, because I'm not going to release it if you don't like it."
Yeah.
And she loved it, which is good. She's very picky too, so that means a lot.
Okay.
And it's truly going to be special, and that's coming out in February 12th. It'll be out on everything, Spotify, Apple, Pandora, blah blah blah, everything. And I really hope that along with my baseball song and the other things that I keep releasing, that people get a little bit of uplifting, but also get introduced to both sides of singing. Because I don't think they should be separate. That's kind of my platform as an opera singer and a musical theater performer. I started in opera fully, and then I slowly crossed over to do Broadway stuff. And I've realized there's really no difference except for technology. And I don't think that should separate us. And same with pop music. I don't think it should separate us. Just because you have high classical training doesn't mean you should scorn John Legend and people like that,
Right.
who are singing gorgeously and to a large audience with real music. You know, we should be able to slowly bridge that gap and become one community, in my opinion. And I'm trying to do that with my music, and because there's a lot of pop opera, but the people aren't actually opera singers. The people can't actually do the full extent of the art.
Right.
And I want to be someone who's like, look, I can sing all of La Boheme or all of La Traviata right now for you in the original Italian with no microphone and a full orchestra. But I can also put a mic right here and sing sweetly and do what you want me to do on the radio.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy both. And so that's kind of my platform with all this, that I'm trying to get more people to realize, because our age is losing appreciation, at least in America, for classical arts, because they think it's elitist. They think it's not welcoming, and they think, well, those aren't the kind of people I want to listen to. I'm like, well, why not? And we can change that. So that's my thoughts.
No, I agree
Not
completely.
that you asked.
No, but that's our thing with classical crossover too. And I think sometimes it gets a bad rap because, as you're saying, maybe not everyone that's singing an aria has had that training. But when you go back really to the roots, it used to come from people that really had legit training.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
so,
they were like, they basically, when it started, I mean, you go back to like, I don't know, who's a famous one, Victoria Griglo or something, or, you know,
even
they're
before
just an
Mario
opera
Lanza, like, yeah.
Mario, right? I mean, we're talking like, that's a legit singer.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, I want a bigger audience to introduce to this kind of music. So I'll just do Hollywood, I guess. And then he's in movies and after movies after movies after movies and using that glorious voice. You know, that's really what I'm trying to do for this era, because we don't have that. You know, Hollywood and other movie companies are really avoiding dubbing voices. They're really avoiding getting a real opera singer to be the voice of someone who should be singing opera.
Yeah.
Or even like the Les Mis movie, the Sweeney Todd movie, the Phantom of the Opera movie. We can go down the list of these movies that could have done what they used to do and get a Mario Lanza to be the voice of whomever and get the famous actor, let's say in this case Hugh Jackman, lovely singer, and I know he has great singing experience. However, that wasn't the right singing role for him, I don't think.
I think he's a baritone, right? He's not even a tenor. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's not easy. That's not an easy role by any means for a tenor, you know? And so it's like, why didn't they ask, you know, a real tenor to be his voice? And then Hugh Jackman could do all of the incredible acting and incredible characterization and stuff that he did. I mean, that's what they used to do. What's wrong with doing that today? Or, you know, a lot of us are actually really good at acting. I mean, a lot of my classical crossover and musical theater friends are the people in movies and stuff now. So why not just use them? And that's been a question that I've been trying to figure out for a while, but I think it comes to the root of this that we're talking about. People don't actually know that it's possible for opera singers to cross over and to sound less classical with a microphone.
Yeah.
And it absolutely is. I mean, it's just a matter of, okay, I don't need to scream over an orchestra. Okay, I'll rein it in a little bit for the microphone. We know how to do that. Just because Pavarotti didn't do it doesn't mean we don't know how to do it. But unfortunately, that era is where all these stereotypes came from, you know? And of course, we love Pavarotti. We all do.
Of course.
But it is true that he had no ability with the mic in his mouth to rein it in because he sang like him.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, we all love it. But people think that that's what we do. And it's like, well, no, things are more flexible nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, you're allowed to do both. You're allowed to be on Spotify, sing on Broadway, and sing at the Met. Like, you're allowed to do all of those, and people won't even blink. They'll be like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Whereas it used to be taboo. I mean, I still know some older people in the industry who are like, oh, but you'll get blacklisted. I'm like, what is that? For making money? What? Yeah, right. It's not a thing anymore.
Yeah. But it's great too, because obviously we did have, and there still are, some really wonderful opera singers. But for instance, they'll do West Side Story, and it is a little bit too operatic, and you're like, you can tone it. So it's nice when you can really do those both very legitimately.
Yes. And honestly, when you've been trained within an inch of your life, like we have,
Yeah.
if you have 12, 20 years of classical training where you're working on things, the minutia of resonance and even vowel placement and all the crap that we do, it's very easy then to go like, oh, so what I need to do then is rein it in and just say the words on pitch well. That's what's expected of me when I cross over. And because someone told me that, they're like, well, you're still singing. You don't need to sing, you need to emote. That's the difference. The real difference when you cross over is you're not singing for the audience like you are in an opera, because you have to sing for the audience in an opera. You need to emote and give a character, and it's through your voice and you're singing, but it's not the same. It's not like exacting notes on the page are as important. These are guidelines in musical theater for emotion, whereas in opera they need to be exact because it's such a large scale thing and you need to be heard.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I think these next generations, if we, the people who cross over, the people who do both, and the people who have a passion for it, can continue to introduce the next generation of people to the fact that we are flexible now and we are in shape now, and things that people don't think about opera singers, whatever it is, we're not all divas and divos. In fact, we get fired if we act the way they used to act. Any number of other stereotypes, I don't have a beard and a bare belly, for instance. Yeah, they stay on hard. I mean, commercials are still coming out that use the negative opera singer vibe. I mean, did you see the recent Alexa commercial that came out this last year? And they're like, an opera singer came on, and it was like they picked someone and they made her look as ugly as possible and in like old fashioned, like high white wig, weird stuff that I've never seen on an operatic stage, by the way. And she was singing Queen of the Night quite well, actually, which I appreciated, because they could have picked what they do a lot, a non-singer, to do it. And then they stopped and went, oh, I don't want to listen to this crap. And then they told Alexa to change to something better.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, what a statement. That is so bad. Oh, I can't believe that's what you think of us. Okay. Wow. Thank you for telling millions of people that we suck.
Yeah.
So I want to change that. And
I think the more people, like, again, you're saying, just get exposed to it, because again, this idea, and of course there's always going to be that some people are a little elitist, but I think mainly, and I actually had someone rightly call me out. I remember in college, I was like, well, opera people are a little, and he was like, no. Like, who are you really thinking about? And he really made me think. And it's some of the most successful people are the most down to earth, lovely people. So I think we really do need to break those stereotypes, because they're not true.
Yeah, I mean, the man I was talking about who told me I would be a fool not to pursue Jillian, he is the owner of a 200 and some year old pharmaceutical company in the South. I won't say his name and everything, but he's one of the wealthiest people in the world that I've ever met. And he literally is the kind of guy who's got his hands in his jean pockets, and he's got his farm, and that's all he cares about is his farm. And even though, he's the CEO of a several billion-dollar company, he's like, and all he cares about is, emotional connection and sharing deep messages and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, so it's not the money, it's the image. And there are people, and they're not the wealthy people. They're just the people who are in the business who are the elitist ones, the ones who watched the American inauguration the other day and insulted the singers. Like, that's the image of opera that people see. Yeah. And it's like, well, why are we doing that? Why are we that petty that we need to insult famous singers who are singing for the inauguration of the president? Like, no. Well, why would we do that? Well, because that's the image that we got taught. And, you're right. It's not necessarily the elitism of rich people. It's a white tower that we, or ivory tower that we built as a community. And we can change it, I think, bit by bit, by just being normal people who are passionate about what we do, and, to quote a dear friend of mine, to share our enthusiasm. because that's what gets people to love something. When you tell someone, oh my God, there's this like Netflix show that blew my mind, you have to watch it. Don't you watch it?
Yeah.
You know, but if you go, oh, I hate, oh my, this show is just stupid and everything, but my show that I like is better. Are you going to watch their show? Absolutely not. You're going to go,
All right. Yeah, you enjoy that.
like, I probably won't like your show because I don't talk about things that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, sidetracking. That's my
Yeah. No. I think that's a really good
best
goal
skill.
that you have. So tell us, before we wrap this up, let's talk a little bit about both albums that you've made.
Yes.
So tell us about your first album and then this very special Christmas project you did with your wife.
It was super special. So, okay. The first album's called What You'd Call a Dream, which is the title song of my favorite baseball song.
Yeah.
And it's essentially a story of my life. And if you go from the beginning, I won't list every song because that would take too long. But the first song is Something's Coming from West Side Story, which was the first song I sang at the Lincoln Center for my big debut. And then the next song is Make Someone Happy, which is the song I proposed to Jillian with.
Oh.
And then the third, it's pretty great. The third song is Bring Him Home, which I may have mentioned is like one of my favorite songs ever.
Yeah.
You know, and the fourth song is my favorite Mario Lanza song, the Student Prince Serenade. And then the fifth song is a song my dad wrote for when his mother died. And I mean, it just goes all the way down the list of like my life, my passionate stuff that I bring to the table, including a brand new commission on that album from Evan L. Snyder, the composer. It's an operatic piece, so it's much different than the pieces coming out soon. But it's really cool. We've been passionate about the Count of Monte Cristo needing to be an opera or a musical for some time.
Interesting, yes.
And this was an opportunity to commission him because I had the funding. And so he wrote like a little Shena for it, which is really cool. I mean, it's very much an operatic scene, and you need acting and you need props and stuff for it to really come to life. But if you listen to it, you'll be like, oh my gosh, this would be so cool on stage, because it's him in prison after everything that's happened, deciding to become the Count of Monte Cristo, deciding to escape and everything like that. And anyway, leading all the way down to the baseball song. And that one's very special. And I've loved the reception to it. It's been out for a year and it's gotten, I mean, nearly 400,000 streams on Spotify alone. And
wow.
It's really been a special thing that people are listening to it. And I hope people keep enjoying it. But it was just piano and voice. You know, it's a simple thing that I did. And after doing the whole submitting to curators, talking to playlisting people about it, I realized that most people don't just listen to piano and voice much. And so I wanted a new project that started moving more toward the popular realm, where you have lots of instruments, samples of instruments, drum kit, things like that. And so when COVID happened, I immediately started brainstorming ideas of things we could do from home. And of course, we, like everyone else, did live streams. We did Zoom concerts. We did stuff like that. And they did fine, but there was an oversaturation in the market suddenly, and every single singer and every single company was doing it. Yeah. And so it made less of an impact. And so we were like, okay, let's do something else. And I connected with a company that we were supposed to sing a concert for in Detroit called Box 5 Productions. And they put on musicals and Disney concerts and stuff like that. And the man who runs its name is Justin Spiro, and he's a wonderful guy. And I just reached out and said, Justin, we want to make something special during COVID, and I'm looking for backing. Would you have any interest? And he said, yeah, send me a business plan. So I did. And at first it was supposed to be Disney, because we had a son on the way and we wanted to release like a sweet Disney lullaby duet Prince and Princess album that we could play for him. And as the months passed, nothing, I mean, COVID kept like hammering on our work and on Justin's work. And so things got pushed and pushed and pushed till finally it's September, October. And he's like, so what are your thoughts on stepping forward with going into the studio? And I went, well, maybe we should consider doing something that Jillian and I have wanted to do for a long time, which is like a traditional Christmas album, something that, because it had been announced in Europe and here that they were like getting stricter and stricter about travel, and that they really didn't want families getting together, you know, by Jillian's family, it's usually 40 plus people in one room, like that. They're like, don't do that. Please don't do that. And so we're like, you know what? This could be a great time to release something for all the people like us who are going, man, what a year. We're going to be sitting at home for the first time kind of alone
Yeah.
and needing some uplifting. And so we said, let's switch this. Let's get all of our favorite Christmas songs that we grew up to and rearrange them, make our own versions, make our own duets, and put it out there, and then actually produce it in the way that you produce a pop album. So instead of just piano and voice, we did the piano and the voice in the studio, but then we went through and we had solo jazz trombone from our friend Chris Glassman, who's a phenomenal jazz trombonist, and then we had drum kit, and then we added in some synth and some real violin, so that it didn't sound super fake, and then we had horns added in, and like things kind of grew over the production period, and we added in more and more stuff, and the result ended up being something so special. I mean, it's not the greatest thing ever made because we had to do it during COVID with a limited budget, but I am so happy and proud with what came out, and hundreds of people have reached out to us in letter form or an email just saying how special it made their Christmas, which was different because we named it Christmas at home because we all were at home, and it was very different. And we tried to do something special, and I think we really accomplished it. And there was a little snafu with like the streaming market this year, and so it's not up right now, but it will be up next week. And so
good.
If people want to check it out, you have to give it a week or so,
Okay.
but it'll be back. There was something that happened. I still don't know what it was with the streaming market, but they removed like millions of people's stuff.
Yeah, I was seeing the tweets, and I was so confused what was happening. And
I still don't know, but I did what people suggested, and I switched distributors, and lo and behold, there was no issue. And Spotify was like, oh yeah, we never took your stuff down. So I don't know what happened, whatever. Yeah. But for those who want to listen to Christmas music in January or February, it'll be
all year round, guys. Come on, Christmas music is awesome.
but next year.
Yes, exactly.
Or at the end of the year, I guess. And so yeah, those are two very special albums that have given us a lot to do promotion wise and a lot to do recording wise while we can't be on stage. So check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 week. That'll actually probably be when this goes live because we normally do it 1 week in advance. So by next week, it should be up. So
then you could cut that.
Yeah, right? We're perfect. We're ready. So then over this next year, hopefully, things are improving. So what are some of the things? Obviously, your single, You Came Into My Life, is coming out in February. What are some of the other things you're looking forward to?
So in theory, I have performances coming up. I don't know if they'll happen or not. I'm supposed to do HMS Pinafore at Pensacola Opera in March.
Okay.
And they're doing Carmen right now, and they have all these protocols in place, and the chorus is wearing masks, and the audience is spaced out. That's one nice thing about having huge theaters in America is you can space people out.
Yeah.
And I think it's only the leads that have their masks off, and they all had to quarantine and stuff like that. And so they're doing it. And so if this goes well, which is actually this weekend is performance, then I'll know if I'm going down to Pensacola to do Pinafore. And then in theory, once again, I have a Traviata, I have a Pirates of Penzance, I have a modern work called Glory Denied about the Vietnam War that are all still lined up for the next 5-6 months. And we'll see if those actually happen or not. And if they do, great. I would love that. If they don't, I will keep finding new things to do.
Yeah.
I might release more singles. I'm actually working on a duet single with another classical crossover friend. And I won't give too many details yet because it's still in the baby versions. But she shares my vision for what I'm talking about, and has been releasing her own kind of like pop crossover stuff. And we're kind of taking the themes of our favorite Puccini and Verdi operas and doing a little bit of what Andrew Lloyd Webber did and kind of amalgamating them into a more pop song. And so anyone who knows opera will recognize the moments that are taken right out of Puccini, but they're not super overt in the sense of it won't sound like it's from Bohème. It won't sound like it's from Butterfly, but it's obvious that it is if you know the music. But it's meant in a different context, kind of to show you how pretty this music actually is, and maybe encourage people then to go watch La Bohème or Butterfly and go, oh, okay, I do like this music.
Yeah.
And so that's and of course my Carnegie Hall debut. That's a big one.
Yes.
So, and that'll be in December. And actually, while we were talking, I got a notification from them an email. So with the dates. So they're stepping forward.
That's incredible. That's great news that especially the opera is going forward. That's really good news.
I hope it happens. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, it's been so nice to talk to you, John. We'll love to have you on again when you have a new release, and then maybe I'll talk to you after we sign up. Maybe we'll get you to sing it on one of our concerts or something. It'd be great to have you. Stay tuned, guys.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
And guys, please go out and check out his albums on Spotify. And can you buy physical copies as well?
Yes, there are CDs. I'm actually considering making vinyl. If people want vinyl, please message me, because I'm not going to make them until I know people want them.
Yeah.
But vinyl is kind of making a huge comeback, and that sound is so amazing that I want to make 100 or 200 of them, but I don't want to make 100 and 200 of them and sell 30. So if people want them, let me know. But
Yeah.
I have CDs of both signed and unsigned, of both the Christmas album and What You'd Call a Dream. We're almost sold out on the Christmas ones, but if you want them, please buy them, because it would be great to say we're sold out. And please consider following me on Spotify and stuff like that. It goes a long way. For those of you who don't know, it's hard for people in our industry to get the promotion to work right, because we are a smaller industry than the pop industry. And so for those of you who love this kind of music, please follow us and like our songs, because it tells Spotify who you listen to, and then it helps promote us to people the other people you listen to, that kind of audience. And so it really does help.
Absolutely. So go follow him. We'll have all his links up here as well. It's been so good chatting with you, John.
Thank you so much, Natasha.
Bye for now.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed today's interview. Please stay tuned. We'll have much more content. We're trying to do a new interview for you every week, and then we'll also have mini concerts coming your way. It's a new feature. And we're going to have our big Sound of Crossover series starting in May. So that'll be our new concert series, and we're very excited to show that to you. Before that happens, we want to let you know that another wonderful classical crossover group called Songbirds Live Streaming is doing a February Valentine's Day concert. So that will be February 13th and 14th, 2 days of music, 30 artists, each doing 30-minute sets. I was actually asked to do a set, so I'm really excited for you to hear that and for you to hear all these amazing performers. Some of them you'll probably already know. They've been featured on these concerts, and you'll discover some new great singers also. The other great concert we'll be doing in March is a collaboration concert called Classical Crossover Community, and that will be also with the Songbirds group, Classical Crossover Community group, Classical Crossover For You radio station. So we hope you guys will enjoy. Please RSVP, and as always, if you want to keep seeing this content, subscribe, and consider joining us over on Patreon to support and see some fun behind-the-scenes content. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.